Okay, well, welcome everybody. Good evening to everyone from the Feng Shui Society. Um, Great to have you join us. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Nick Haines, which you can see on screen. He's just introduced himself before coming on. And so the occasion is the Chinese New Year celebration, which is coming up pretty soon next week. And bringing in new energies and a new cycle. And so some of you may be familiar with the Chinese Zodiac signs, but we have Nick here tonight who's going to give us a bit more explanation in a bit more detail, provide some context about the new cycle, the incoming energies, and a bit more context around the wider cycles. So what we have is Nick has a background in Chinese philosophy, in Chinese healing, and he has spent decades looking after tens and thousands of patients in his acupuncture and healing clinic. So with your experience, Nick, with Nick's experience, he has managed to observe, make observations from his experience and recognize trends and patterns, which he will share with us. And also, Nick is the founder of the Five Institute, as well as the co-founder of No More Boxers Movement. So, Nick, a very warm welcome, and I guess your co-host, and the floor is all yours. I'll let you begin and hide my screen.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much. What I'm going to do is just to give you a run through, I'm going to share some slides. We're going to take some Q&As, different things. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do, but let me just share my screen to start with, and then we can see where we are. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So just checking you can see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Let's get this show on the road behind this. So first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I am going to be running through lots of slides. If you go to this link, I'll give you a copy of all individual slides, and also we will post this and other links below this video if you're watching this as a recording. If you're watching this recording, welcome as well. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at how to make the most of the 2024 Wood Dragon year with myself, Nicholas Haines, and I'm referring to this year as a year to plant the seeds of change, or a year to plant the seeds of your deepest dreams, because Wood Dragon years are the best years to manifest out of all the 60 years that go. And I've, depending on when you're watching this, and if you're here live, I have manifested a party for you, a New Year party. So I have an invitation completely free. If you would like to join between the 5th and 9th of February, we're having a New Year party. We're going to be looking at the Wood Dragon year, building on some of the content that I'm going to be sharing here. The link to the New Year party is this, which again, we'll put below the video. But that's the future. Let's look at the now. Let's look at the things we're going to cover today. So we're going to, in part one, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quick run through about the Chinese Zodiac and you, a kind of class in that. Then we're going to look at the past and the big picture. And this doesn't always matter in years, but within Wood Dragon years, understanding the past and the big picture is really, really important. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Wood Dragon and the energy of now. And to help you with that, I'm going to give you 5 guiding principles for 2024, and then some tips and tricks for the Wood Dragon year. And if you're here live, we're going to have some questions and discussions. So let's start out by looking at the Chinese Zodiac and you. I'll keep this nice and simple for you. So each year is related to one of the 12 animals, and that gives the year certain characteristics just with that. It's also linked to one of the 5 elements, or one of the 5 energies. So basically each year occurs once every 60 years. So the last time we were in a Wood Dragon year was in 1964. Now, each of these years has a theme to it, a flow, an undercurrent, a vibration to it. But also each block of 12 years that these animals operate in also has a theme, a flow, and undercurrent and vibration to it. Now, we're currently in a block of time that's dominated by metal energy, metal element. And we'll explore a little bit later why that is really significant, this block of time that we're in. Now, no year is good or bad for you. It's like they say in Yorkshire, there's no good or bad weather. There's just the wrong clothing. So again, it's just understanding the very nature and the energy of the year and looking at its vibration and how that vibration interacts with you. Because obviously the vibration of this year will interact with you. It will interact with your stars, east and west. It'll interact with your numerology, the essence of who you are, your ancestral energy, the energy that's come from multiple generations, the energy that you might be exploring within your karmic journey. And also it will interact with your promise. And the ancient Chinese believed that when we came to Earth, we made a promise to do something, to be something, to explore something in some way. And each year will interact with all of those. Now, if you think to yourself, oh, this is a little bit confusing. So I've got to make sense of this wood dragon year in terms of my east, my west stars, my numerology, my essence, my promise I made, my ancestral energy, the karmic energy. How am I going to unravel this year? But I've got to take all those different things into account. And I personally think the easiest way to understand each of these years and phases that we're in is through the vitality test, because the vitality test is a measurement of these 5 distinct elements within you. And in a way, they are an amalgam of your east-west stars, your numerology, essence, karmic journey. And within your vitality test profile, you have everything you need to fulfill that promise and some explorations and some journeys and things to kind of work their way through. So when you understand that profile, it's a way to understand the years in a very, very deep and meaningful way. The vitality test is completely free. Just go to 5institute.com. And when you take the vitality test, you'll get a readout. You get a map of these 5 energies plus a report. Now, even though you might have the same energy makeup as someone else, they won't be the same as you. They will have not been born into the same family as you. They will not have the same promise as you. They will not have the same history. They will not have the same ancestry. They will not have the same experiences. So your vitality test is a very kind of unique way to understand you and your expression in the world. You'll notice that some energies are more dominant, and where we have our dominant energies, that tends to be the way our focus or our way of seeing the world. Whereas where we have these lower energies, and you'll often see them with these dents appearing, that tends to be where we have our blind spots or our lack of focus. So it's really useful when you've got a year, particularly a wood dragon year, with a very distinct pattern to it and things playing out. It's a really good idea to kind of know, okay, well, these are going to be my blind spots for this year, or this is going to be where I'm going to focus or perhaps over focus for a year. So let's just pull this zodiac together for you. So each year is related to an element and a particular energy. So currently we're in a wood dragon year. That will give us something. Then we're also in this block of time dominated by metal energy, and then we've got you represented by your vitality test. And that, in essence, is what we're looking at this year. Now, as I said, exploring in part 2, it really, really matters in wood dragon years to really understand the past and the big picture and what it is that we're trying to do. Because in wood dragon years, context matters in a big way. So a way to understand the context is to understand the kind of vibration of this 2024 wood dragon year is to look back at a previous wood dragon year. And we're going to go back primarily to 1964 and look at what was going on there and what are the similarities, and then what some other things that are going on at the same time. And I'll also go back to a couple of other wood dragon years. So 1964, they were getting over the trauma and the distress from 2 world wars. In 64, they'd also had the year before, they'd had the Cuban Missile Crisis, which many people regard as the nearest this planet has ever come to kind of going to full-out nuclear war. But in the 1960s, they were also trying to do other things. They were trying to send someone to the moon. They were trying to kind of be space travelers. It was a shift in that world. We were also seeing in the 1960s, we were seeing people out in the streets demanding change in certain areas. There was a consciousness around peace, wanting peace, and a way and a desire to have an alternative lifestyle of doing things differently, kind of breaking the system. So there was a challenge between the very old structures and systems that had led to those two world wars and new ways of being and coming in, and could we fundamentally do something different? Now, Wood Dragon years, the years before Wood Dragon years, are water rabbit years. And if you were part of my water rabbit presentations I did at the beginning of last year, I would say we were going to have plot twists. And plot twists are there to wake you up, to shake you up, to make you think differently, to challenge the way things are, to disturb us on some level, to create change. So in 1964, they were living with a plot twist. They were living with many of them. The biggest plot twist was the assassination of President Kennedy. That was a typical kind of water rabbit plot twist. It shook things up. In the 1960s, particularly 64, they were, again, there was a challenging of the status quo. We had kind of Bobby Kennedy was out there saying that we really need to challenge the system. We need to challenge old structures. We need to challenge the powers. And then we had people like Dr. Martin Luther King with I Have a Dream for Something Different, and people like him saying that we should dream of something different than we currently have. And what they were doing in the 60s is they were planting the seeds of change for things to be different. However, what Wood Dragon years are about is they're about potential and possibilities. They're not about reality. They're about potentials and possibilities. And the potentials and the possibilities, to a certain extent, were crushed within that period of time. Those things that they were trying to do. So let's look at 2024. Let's look at similarities. Well, we're trying to send people to the moon. We're back into being intergalactic beings to travel to different planets. We're thinking beyond our earthly existence, and we're looking out towards the stars. But we're also living with war. We're living with war in Europe and war in other places, and it's coming to our consciousness. And we again have been probably the nearest we are to having a nuclear war. We've had a massive plot twist. We had a plot twist right at the end of 2023. We had Palestine, we had Israel, we had Gaza, and it kind of shocking people to our core. A plot twist to make us think of, do we really want this, and do we need to change things? We're also looking at 2004. We're looking at, again, alternative ways of living. Can we do things differently? We're talking about peace. We're saying we want to have peace. Both inner peace and outer peace. There's a thing, and love. We're looking at unity. We're looking at people getting out in the streets and saying we want fundamentally things different than they are. So there is a kind of a revolution, a change that's being pushed forward, and seeds of future are being planted. So one of the questions within these Wood Dragon years is whether or not these seeds that are currently planted, will they survive or will they be crushed? And these are years that stretch way beyond us. They're, for us, very personal years. They occur once every 60 years, and they are the year to plant the seeds of your deepest dreams. But there is not a certainty that that will happen. It's all a potential. Where I think we're fortunate is that we did have the 1960s. And in the 1960s, they planted the seeds of change, and some of them are crushed, but some of them continue to bumble under the surface. So in the 1960s, you had the personal development movement kind of really seeds started to grow. The peace movement, the seeds started to grow. Alternative ways of living, the seeds started to grow. looking at organic farming, different ways of questioning whether or not how we treat the planet. All the seeds were planted in the 1960s of all those things, and they have been constantly growing up. If you look at the expression of bringing Eastern philosophy into the West, again, that was kind of seeded in the 1960s and has been steadily growing underneath the surface. So we have a greater possibility now in 2024, this wood dragon year, than we had in 1964, because if we can really get to understand the seeds of change that were planted then and build on them, then we have a bigger chance to create something different. And we also have some other things that are going on, and I won't talk about this in great detail, but it's recognizing some larger cycles are playing out, cycles of time and humanity. And these cycles that rotate and move around, they operate over thousands of years. And we just so happen to have three of these large cycles of time: geopolitics, consumerism, spirituality, are all in a particular energy at this moment in time. And they're all trying to change into a different energy at the same time. And I kind of look back over history and I cannot see a time where we have had geopolitics, consumerism, spirituality all trying to shift from one energy into another energy. So looking at our politics changing, the way that we operate, and our spiritual dimension is looking to change at the same time. And these are coming in a way to coincide with this wood dragon year. So it is a time of high change, high disruption. So that's some of what's going on. We've also had our individual experience that will be playing into this future year. We've had the last 4 years, the beginning of that metal energy block of time. And that was a journey through 2020, 21, 22, and 23 to do certain things. And what we were fundamentally looking to do is we were to shift identities, just the same as in the 90s. They went from 1959 to 1960. There was an identity shift. They were trying to move into modernity. And through these last 4 years, there has been the death, in a way, of our old identity, of who we were, re-challenging who are we, how do we want to be. We've had the death of our old identity, and we've also been exploring things to kind of show us what it is that we want. And let's just look at the last 4 years. So we had in 2020, it was a metal rat year. 2021 was a metal ox year. Now, metal energy is related to autumn to fall. It's about disconnection. It's about isolation. Every energy is associated with a part of the body. It's about large intestines and lungs. So, hey, go figure. We had isolation, we had disconnection, we had lungs, we had large intestine. And to a certain extent, the 2020 was a shock, but it was kind of slightly easier to deal with, because rats, as an animal, they give a quality of being able to adapt to scuttle around, to kind of do things, to get through things, to kind of, there's an inventive creativeness to that energy to be able to get through. Rats are also hoarders, so we saw quite a lot of hoarding of toilet paper, which again is the large intestine playing out. So that was a year where we suddenly hit from a connection to a complete isolation. And the metal ox year was slightly harder because it was quite a brutal year that we had to kind of, in a way, plod our way through to get it. But metal is also about working out what is valuable and what isn't valuable. So in those 2 years, we were really working out, well, what matters to me? What do I have? What do I appreciate? What is of value to me? You then hit this 2 kind of water energy years with the tiger and the rabbit. Now, water, if you look at it as an element, it is the most powerful of the elements. It has an ability to have the power to knock things over and push things out the way. It's about power. It also has a power of flow and movement to go around things, through things, etc. Water also is the only element, any energy that leaves its mark on the earth. All the other elements, all the other energies, they're really quite, they don't stay. Whereas water, think about the Grand Canyons and the glaciers. The water leaves its mark on the earth. So those 2 years, we were exploring not only from the metal energy what matters to us, but also what is our purpose, And then the tiger is a very powerful animal. So there was lots of stuff around, who has power? Do I have power? Does someone else have my power? And all this stuff. And that mixed up together with the metal energy from the previous 2 years. And metal energy is about secrets, things being hidden. So we had something's being hidden from us. Where are the secrets? Who's got the power? Etc., etc. And then the rabbit, water rabbit, we had plot twists and all sorts of things. And this question as to whether or not rabbits, whether or not we want to come out into the world. So for the last few years, we've had isolation, puzzles, plot twists, but they've been fundamentally there to show you, to indicate what do you want, to show you what you want. And you might have had experiences to show you what you don't want, or you might have had some experiences to show you what you really don't want. But it's fundamentally a whole process, as well as working out what we want and what we don't want. It's a process of that we are being reborn. We have the death of an old identity and the showing of what it is that we want. And all of that is there to move us into this cycle of this kind of wood dragon year, this once in a 60-year opportunity to fundamentally change things. Now, for many people, and my hand on my heart, I can say that the 4 years with the death of an old identity, things being taken away, has been difficult. As I kind of shared in this video, when I was talking about that I was feeling kind of deeply broken by my experiences that I'd had in those years, but recognizing I was not broken, I was being rearranged in order for this next phase. But it is difficult, and some of those experiences have left imprints on us, imprints that are there as these new energy waves are arriving. And one of the things we need to really look to do is to release those imprints, those trauma, that stress, those different things that we had as those experiences. Because if we're going to hold on to those as we move into this next phase, it will limit our ability to be part of the change or have what it is that we want to create and to manifest. And so there is a kind of releasing process. There was also, within the death of old identities and change and trauma and stress and stuff, there was a lot of distress, strain that was put on our relationships. So I have a gift for you. At the beginning of this period of time, because I kind of knew it was going to happen, I wrote a book called The Art of Kind and Flowing Relationships, a practical guide to deal with your differences and to create happy relationships that last. And I think chapter 5 is a really good chapter for us to look at. And chapter 5, it looks at, we all have different energies. I have an energy, you have one. And what is the secret of me living with you and you living with me, of you understanding me? And in chapter 5, there's a great way to understand the nature of who it is that we are and how we're living. So again, linked with the links that we'll put with this video or early on, I'm giving you a copy of chapter 5. It's there for you to help you if there's any particular trauma. But what I want to do now is to go into some breakout rooms. So we'll probably pause the video at this recording at this particular stage. I will explain what it is that we're going to do. And so thank you very much for those breakout rooms. That leads us beautifully into the reason you're here, looking at that kind of wood dragon, looking at the energy of now. So the way to understand is what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this year down into its two component parts. We're going to first of all look at wood energy, and then we're going to look at dragon. And what we're going to do is pull out 3 things that I think in a way is kind of the essence of understanding wood energy, this element, and how it will apply to you. So the first one is control, chaos, and creation. So every element, every energy is related to a particular season, and wood energy is related to spring. And in spring, we have a number of different things. We've obviously got the beginning of something new, but if you look at this picture here, this kind of acorn, it kind of says a number of things that are kind of going on. So there is a new creation that is arriving from that. But prior to that creation, that seedling bursting forward, it was actually trapped in a hard outer casing. It was completely stuck. And then what it suddenly does, and this is what the nature of wood energy is about, it's about stuckness, and then it's about movement. So you go from this, and then whoosh, you end up with this kind of a mass of things. So this year there's a relationship between things controlling and things being chaotic, and it's fundamentally about creation. It's about things being new. So that's one essence that we're going to kind of explore. The next thing that I think is a kind of key essence to understand this year is about judgment, plans, and dreams. So wood energy has got something going on around judgments. It could be that with your creation, you're not making that good a judgment, or you think, oh, wow, that's out of the box. So you have to kind of be making a judgment as to whether or not something is appropriate or not. And if you look at this acorn again, it's having to make a judgment. If it breaks out and starts too early, it could get caught by a frost. If it does it too late, you're kind of missing an opportunity. So in a wood dragon year, there is some judgments going on around when you should do things and when you shouldn't do things. And we're going to, within the tips and tricks, I'm going to help you with some of that. But there's some stuff going around judgment, and there's going to be judgments that we're making about what's important, judgments we're making about the society. So that's one of the things that's going to happen this year. In terms of the plans, this acorn absolutely and utterly knows it's going to be an oak tree. It doesn't think it's going to be a turnip, a banana, a tulip, and an orange. It knows it's going to be an oak tree. It has that fundamental dream. So there's something going on around plans and dreams around this year for what it is you might want. And then the third essence of wood energy is around freedom, rules, and revolution. Freedom, rules, revolution, and justice. Now, if you take the vitality test, you'll see that each energy gives us what I call a big question. And it's almost a forever question that you're asking all your life. And the kind of wood energy question is, am I free? Are we free? And there's always questions around that. And you can put yourself into situations where you're trapped to work out whether or not you can cope with being trapped, and are you ultimately always free? So there's testing and stuff that goes on. But in wood energy there is something going on around freedom, rules, revolution, and justice. Freedom being a big thing. The rules is an interesting one. So if you know anyone with a lot of wood energy, wood element in them, you'll know that they have an interesting relationship with rules. So, for example, they will park anywhere they feel like parking. I can get away with this. I can break the rules. However, if someone breaks their rules about what they believe to be true, it can be all hell can break loose. So there's an interesting relationship going on around rules. So we may well see some stuff, us challenging rules, us putting new rules being put in place, perhaps about our freedom, or some disruption around there. So there could be some stuff around wood energies about revolution. It's about fundamental change. And if you look at other dominant wood energies, there's something going on around revolution, and there's also something going on around justice and injustice and equality and fairness. So previous wood dragon year, 1964, we had in America the Civil Rights Act that was trying to deal with inequalities and justice and fairness, etc. And one of the things that we will see in very strong wood energy is like this one, we will see a potential for people that are weaker to take on someone that's stronger because of an injustice or something that is fundamentally wrong. So it's about old challenging the new. But let's look at the dragon. Let's look at what's going on here. So the dragon is, in a way, it's a bit of an outlier in terms of the Chinese Zodiac. Everything else is very, very down to earth. You've got rats and oxes and snakes and monkeys and pigs and dogs and goats. And then you've got a dragon. And all the other animals are of this world, and the dragon is not of this world. And they're considered to be messengers. that they fundamentally bring messages from other worlds to us. Now, what messages do they bring in dragon years? Well, some of it depends upon many depends upon the element it's associated with. So in wood dragon years, there will be wood energy type messages that are kind of going on. Our previous dragon year was in 2012, and that was a water dragon. And water energy is about leaving your mark on the earth, purpose, why you're here. So think about 2012 and what things came to you then, and what things did you start, perhaps didn't finish, or things that you started then that you might be thinking about resurrecting again now. Because these are divine messages that are coming. So messages from another world, primarily kind of wood energy messages. Dragons are also confident, powerful, and ambitious. So there may be some stuff coming up around your confidence in yourself, and something about your power and something about ambition. So it could be that you have an awakened ambition to have something that you've let go of or you want to reclaim, or you might have a sense of, oh, this is something bigger. I'm feeling like I need to do something. I'm feeling I need to step into my power. I'm feeling I need to confidently move forward. And I think the confidence thing is a really interesting one, because some people say, I was working with someone a couple of weeks ago, and they said, I'm absolutely confident. Yeah, I'm very confident. But when you examine their confidence, it was confidence for what they do now and not for what they're here to do. So with this wood dragon year, I really think you may have the confidence to do what you do now, but do you have the confidence to do what you're here to do next? That's, I think, one of the big things we'll see with this dragon energy coming in around confidence, particularly mixing up with the wood energy about something new or reclaiming, etc. So the courses I generally design are designed for this time. So starting on the 19th of February, I've got a brand new 6-week quest called Confidence Flow and Finding You. The Finding You is really to say, if an old identity has died and you want to reclaim it, or you want to release the trauma, the stress, the different things you've been going through, you need to kind of do that. And the confidence is the confidence to do what you're here to do next. And as we're going to look with wood energy, there is a flow to it that we need to kind of get right, because there is another flip side to which we will look at the tips and tricks. But let's look at the final one, idealistic, visionary, and congruent. Big thing about the dragons. So dragons have a very idealistic view of things, and they can be very visionary. And we'll look at how that combines with the wood energy. But it's kind of a thing, oh, I've got this ideal, I have this dream, I've got this big thing. But they also have this thing around being congruent. And if you look at an aspect, a definition of being congruent is in agreement or harmony. So in agreement or in harmony with, having something that's congruent, it is in agreement with or in harmony, the two things all fit together. So within these wood dragon years that we kind of step into when we're planting the seeds of our deepest dreams, the seeds that you're planting of your deepest dreams need to be congruent, in alignment, in harmony with you. You say, this is me. This is who I'm meant to be. So out of all the 60 years, this is a year where our future, in a way, depends on us being authentically us and congruent, and what we decide to do matches with who we are. And the congruent, in agreement or in harmony with your inner and your outer world. And this is, if you look at the kind of whole thing of kind of movement and flow of structures, and that's why I was so excited doing this for the Feng Shui Society, because as a group of people, you are about the ability to create movement, to flow, to create congruent stuff, agreements and harmony within structures internally and externally. And it is one of the things we must do in this year to get that congruent, in agreement, in harmony with things. So looking at that for you and for other people, because it's something that other people will notice isn't there, and there will be a demand for it even if they don't know it. So those, in a way, is the essence of the dragon. We've got messages from another world, big messages. It's going to be about your confidence, your power, your ambition, and it has this kind of idealistic side to it, this visionary side to it. And then this kind of down to earth, is it congruent? Does it match? Is the flow? Is it movement? Is there a harmony within the structures and the system that we're trying to do? And then we've got the wood energy there: control, creation, judgment, plans, dreams, freedom, rules, revolution, and justice. And that, in a way, is kind of what this wood dragon year is about. It's in a kind of an amalgam of all those sorts of things. And you can look at those sorts of things and you can think, oh, yeah, that's not very helpful, Nick. I see all those things and I say, well, I love you. I'm going to give you 5 guiding principles, 5 things that I think if you follow these things, then you will make make the most of this particular year, this once in every 60-year lifetime year, and also a year in which we're trying to shift geopolitics, consumerism, spirituality, a year in which we're trying to plant and do something that will go beyond, way beyond us. This year is way beyond us. Okay, so let's pull this together for you and give your 5 guiding principles. And with your 5 guiding principles, I'm going to give you 3 in depth, and I'm just going to touch on the other 2 because they have a little bit more explaining. So if we look at this together, you can see the dreams and plans, idealistic, visionary. There's kind of new dreams, plans, idealistic, visionary. There's a kind of a wandering off into the dreams. And then there is, do we have the power to do it? The judgment, the plans, etc. And then there is fundamentally at its heart a revolutionary, disrupted side to it. So you have other wood energy years, but dragon years, wood dragon years, it is about divine revolution and change, not ordinary change. It is about fundamentally changing the structures of our bigger society, coincidentally happening at the same time as geopolitics, consumerism, and spirituality, all trying to shift into a completely different energy. I cannot think of a time that has ever been this, that you happen to have been chosen to be born into and happen with your Feng Shui, happen to have a gift that is beyond imagination to help yourself and other people at this particular time. But let's look at the kind of guiding principles. The first one is to be very clear on what you want and who you are. Wood Dragon years are the best years to manifest and to create. There is no better years, and that's why I say it is this year to plant the seeds of your deepest dreams. It is the year to manifest what you've been given years, 4 years to have experiences to work out what it is that you want to manifest from your heart, what you want to bring out into the world. And it is an incredible year to bring that out. But there is a trap, particularly at the beginning of this kind of wood dragon year. And the trap is the trap around the kind of wood energy and plans. And it can give a sense that, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a plan. I don't have it worked out. So in terms of you saying, this is what I want and this is who I am, you can just, at this particular stage, it can just be really kind of broad brush strokes of things you love. You might say, you know what? I want more freedom. I want to have just to be free to move. Or you might say, you know what, I want to have more fun. I want to just do things. Or you might say, I want to travel more. I want to travel with other people. Or it may be you say, you know what, I miss seeing, I want to see some old friends and I want to go on a road trip. I want to do something with some old people I haven't seen for a while. And you may be having the past coming up for you to say, you know, is this something from your past you would like to bring in the future and do something differently with? Or it may be that in those years that we've just had, that you realize that kind of one of the important things was that you would like to have more me time, more time for yourself, to be peaceful, to be quiet, to reflect, to have that balance between having a busyness, but also having a quietness, of a stillness, to have it both, and the structures would be required. Or it may be that you think, actually, you know what? I want to find a forever friend. That's what I want. Or it may be that because your identity has shifted or has changed or is altered in some way, your tribe, the people you biz with, no longer fit you. So you might say, actually, I want to find a new tribe. I want to find people that get me, that understand who I am, or I want to reconnect with people that I've not seen in person. I want to be together, or with a new tribe. Or just be clear on what you want. Do you want peace in the world? Is that inner peace, or is it outer peace, or is it both? And you know, absolutely, you know the way this works. It's about saying what you want. As in, you don't say, I don't want conflict. Say what you do want. I want peace. So the first guiding principle this year is to be really clear on what you want. I want this. And who you are. Remember that dragon is about being congruent and idealistic and visionary, but it is kind of like, this is who I am. And if you are, again, if you are struggling to recognize who you are, there is the kind of vitality test that gives you a profile. It's completely free and it's there. And it is, I do not know a better way for you to understand who you are. When you look into it and you look at it properly, just because it's free, it doesn't mean it's just nothing. It is very, very powerful. So, number one, be clear on what you want and who you are. The second one is look for and permit possibilities. And this, I think, is a really, really important one, to look for and permit the possibilities. We're entering a period, a kind of a blossoming of something. And we're in a period of time that's all about possibilities. Nothing is certain. It's a formation of a different energy. And what we can do is we can collapse those possibilities down and not permit them to exist. So it is to look for the smallest of signs and permit the possibilities to exist and say, okay, well, I see hints. I permit the possibility that we're going to have peace. I permit that possibility. I'm looking for signs of people coming together. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I'm going to permit that possibility to exist. I'm going to permit the possibility that I will be doing something I love, because we're fundamentally in a period of manifestation and creation. And unless we permit those possibilities to exist, they will collapse. We are literally planting the seeds of it. And as we look for those possibilities and we plant the seeds, and as they appear, just be curious and say, oh, look, that is starting to appear. It might not be perfect. It's just starting. I permit that to exist, because there will be so many people that will be wanting to crush the possibilities of something different, to say, no, this is not going to happen. But as you know, as we know, we fundamentally create what we imagine or believe to be true. And if you look at something as simple as the Maharishi effect, and this is really kind of looking at you saying to yourself, what could I do myself? I want to have this thing to happen, but there's just one of me. And how could I, as an individual, all by myself, how could I permit the possibility of peace in the world? Or how could a group of us permit that possibility to exist? How could we actually manifest it to exist when there are so few of us trying to shift it, and it might just be me? But this is, once you understand the kind of Maharishi effect and how powerful that is. And what this comes from is some work done by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi looking at transcendental meditation. And they went into various different cities in the world, and they started meditating on a regular basis, meditating on peace, love, etc. One they went into was in, I think it was 1989. They went into Merseyside, an area of the UK, and they set up meditation groups, and they had a group of people meditating on peace and love. At that time in 89, Merseyside was one of the third highest crime rates in the UK, and for domestic violence and for all these things. It was third highest rates. And within 3 years, it was one of the lowest rates of crime, domestic violence, of disruption. It changed in a few years, and that was with a group of people meditating. And you think, yeah, really? And what they worked out was they worked out a number. How many people were required in a city to change the population in terms of their behavior? And they worked it out. It was a square root of 1% of the population. The population on the earth at the moment is just over 8 billion people. The square root of 1% of the population of 8 billion people is just over 8,500 people. Though 8,500 people take the vitality test in the last year or so. So you're not looking for massive numbers of people that say, this is what I want, to actually come together and change things. So look for and permit the possibilities. There will be cynicism, there will be rejection, there will be powers that don't want change, looking to crush that down. It's for us to look for and permit the possibilities. Next thing we need to do is to allow two things to exist at the same time and go high. So what we're fundamentally doing here is we're trying to move into a quantum field. So if you look at an atom, it has electrons and moving around it, and you say, okay, they're moving around in these cycles, but they're not really. An electron is in one place and another place and another place all at the same time and in absolutely no time. It can exist in multiple things at the same time, and that's the quantum field. It is a field of possibilities of which many things can exist and move outside time. So one of the things that we need to start to do is we need to allow two things to exist at the same time. To not say, it is this here. It's this here and that at the same time. And if you look to how manifestation happens, it is by allowing two things to exist at the same time. And to be cool with something is perfect and imperfect. And that's fundamentally what it is that we're fundamentally trying to do. Because if you look at the difference between, the way to understand the difference between the Newtonian world and the quantum world is to understand the difference between a regular computer and a quantum computer. So a regular computer, it says something is either a 0 or it is a 1. Which is it? Is it a 0 or is it a 1? And it computes based on something being one thing or another. A quantum computer says it could be a 0 or a 1, or a 0 and a 1, or a 0 and a 1 and everything in between, and operates outside time. And us human beings, we have created quantum computers that exist with not 0 or 1, but both and everything in between. And to give you a sense of the difference in the power and behavior of creation and doing things, a regular computer, if it is an operation that would take 270 years to do that calculation, to do that work, 270 years with a regular computer, that a quantum computer can do in 6 minutes. So what we're fundamentally doing is we're trying to say, let's shift into a different way of being. And it is the matter of manifesting, of fundamentally creating that we're trying to do. But you know, I said we're in a block of time dominated by metal energy. And this is really significant because metal energy, it loves simplicity. So we're in a block of time dominated by, let's keep things really simple. And the best way to keep things simple is to have things that's very black and white. And that's why we've seen over the last 4 years, and also as we were rolling into this block of time, the block of 12 years with 4 metal energy years in it, we've seen vast amounts of black and white thinking. Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Are you pro-vax? Are you anti-vax? Are you this? Are you that? The whole gender stuff kind of going on. about people wanting to be both. We can't be both. You're one or the other. And it fundamentally is a trap that we can fall into, and it is the thing that will limit our ability to manifest and create and do something new. We get stuck in that it's either this or that. It could be two things existing. Also, if we look at this revolution that we're happening, and you look at this kind of wood energy revolution that we have, there is a few dangers here that we need to think about. And again, I think you listen to this, that you can just hold this and help society through this. So if you just look at the nature of revolution, so in a previous, as they were heading into a previous wood dragon year in 1783, they were just moving into a wood dragon year. And in 1783, America got independence from oppressive British rule. And we had the building up of the French Revolution. And if you look at the French Revolution, revolutions, basically, they go and they circulate and you come back round again. So in France, you got rid of the kings and you got Napoleon. It just circulates. So we need to be careful within revolution that we just don't end up back where we were again. Also, the other nature of revolution or change is driven by three things. And again, this is the slight danger of this kind of wood energy change that we're trying to do. That you might have the first form of change, it might be driven that we're just tired. I am just so tired of the world and the way it is. I just want something different. I'm tired of this. I want something different. Or you might have inspired revolution, inspired change. Like this. I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King, inspired change, a dream. Or you might have angry change, angry revolution. And if we get stuck in a very basic form of thinking that it's either one or the other, then, and we can't allow two things to exist at the same time, we will get angry change. We will get angry revolution. So we have to try to move into this higher state. And in our vibrational state, we have to try and hold this high vibrational state, to be in that kind of Maharishi effect of trying to hold this place and say, let's go for inspired revolution, because whatever we choose, we will get. And it can move in any different direction. So allow two things to exist at the same time, to go high. And then the next two, I'm just going to kind of whisk through quickly. The fourth one you really need to do is to choose the rhythm and your energetic architecture. So when I'm saying choose the rhythm, if you have something that you want to do and create in the world, what would be the rhythm and the routine that you would need in your life to create the thing that you want to have? What would that be? Choose the rhythm. And I would suggest that you choose a new rhythm to match the new thing that you want. So what routines, what patterns, what things do you need to do? What's the rhythm of your life? What's the flow of your life that you need to have to get the things that you want to do? An energetic architecture is there are 5 forms of architecture, of energetic design. And it's basically, the architecture is a structure. You put energy in, and the energetic architecture does something. So the chair that I'm sitting is in the energetic architecture of certainty. I sit in this chair and the chair pushes back and says, it is certain that I am here. We have certainty. You also have the energetic architecture of possibilities, in which many things can exist. And chairs aren't in that, but creation and manifestation is in the energetic architecture of possibilities. And we can have energetic architecture of balance, which is great for your blood sugars or your temperatures. Your temperature goes a little bit high, and the energetic architecture says, okay, we need to bring that down. Your temperature goes a little bit low. Your energetic architecture says, okay, we need to bring that. We need to constantly bring it back to a point of balance. And a point of balance, energetic architecture, a point of balance is brilliant for blood sugars, and it's brilliant for temperature. It's brilliant for many, many things. But in terms of you and your identity, if you operate within the energetic architecture of balance, which is when two things exist at the same time, you will constantly revert back to your old version of yourself. You need to be in the energetic architecture of flow, which requires for you to let go and to trust. The fifth thing that you need to do is you need to take inspired action. aligned with your promise. This is not a year where we do nothing and just sit and dream. There is a possibility that we'll just sit and dream, but it is we're actually meant to take action within the planting of the seeds. And we need to take action even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel confident, even if you don't feel everything set up or you don't have the perfect plan. You just got to take action in line with your promise. So those are the guiding principles for 2024. Let's look at some tips and tricks for this wood dragon year, and I'm going to give you 3 of them. The first one is movement, movement, movement. So if we look at this kind of wood energy side, there is a possibility with wood energy we get quite stuck, stagnant. It needs to get movement, it needs to get flow, it needs to get things happening. And it's the same with the kind of the dragon energy. It needs the congruent, the harmony, the movement, the flow, the creation of movement of things. Because if we don't get movement, so it might be physical movement of your body, creating movement within the space in which you live, creating movement and new ideas, creating movement in the way that you're existing. Just movement, movement, because if we don't get movement, we will have stagnation. And if we have stagnation, you think about electricity, when it stagnates and gets stuck, it starts to generate heat. It starts to generate tension. It starts to generate disruption. And we will then have an angry revolution with stuckness. So it is creating movement for people, movement of ideas, movement of inspiration, to be in that inspired place. Next thing we need to do, a tip and trick, is to keep our energy in balance and boost. This is a time for many of us to be really quite heroic within our own lives, to be an energy-based hero in your world. But to be a hero in your world, to be energetically fully out the world, you need to keep a level of balance, right? We've had 2 years to teach you this is what it's like when you do too much and you work too hard. And we can joke about it, so I'm doing this thing, but balance is the secret, because this is a big game. It's trying to teach you to get that. And for me to help you, I want this to be a wonderful year for the world, for society, because we are here to do some important things. So I have a gift for you. There are ways to balance and boost each energy, to create that balance and harmony within them. So in balancing and boosting each energy, what I'm going to do is I've got this document which will tell you how to balance and boost wood energy, really important to keep that flow, that movement, and earth energy, which will keep you grounded, because the danger this year, people can just float off in just a world of dreams and delusions. We need to be very practical, down to earth, and keep things flowing. And also, there's a little bit I'm giving you about how to step into any energy. I'm going to give you how to step into some wood energy, because we have the opportunity. We might have a certain vitality test profile, but we can actually step into any energy we choose at any moment we need to. And there's just certain ways to do that. Then the final thing is and this is really important, it's that dragon congruent harmony, to know yourself like never before. And again, I think the vitality test is a great way to do that. It's completely free. Help you understand the promise you made, the purpose that you have. We cannot be blind to our abilities anymore. We cannot let that happen. So if you have any doubt that you have, how wonderfully are your gifts and your abilities, we cannot be blind to them. This is a time when they're meant to be out into the world, and we need to be addressing them confidently. You need to understand, okay, how do I get my core confidence up? And situational confidence and conscious confidence. There are different forms of confidence that we need to have. And it is a matter of saying, okay, I might be confident now, but how confident do I need to be in the future? And again, that's why I'm running Confidence Flow and Finding You, because it's there for you to help you make the most of this absolutely amazing year that we have, full of possibilities.